Shalom. So we're going to look at Galatians 5, verses 16 and 17. What happened here is we're going to talk about how Asmodeus attacks the strongest at full moon when we are at our weakest. Because when you observe yourself, what you will notice is that the spirit of lust is more intense at the full moon. All right? So when you get into understanding the elements, you'll understand that the moon deals with water and the water deals with your emotional nature, and we are made up of a lot of water, right? So yes, the elements do impact us. It impacts different areas of our lives, right? So it's very important to understand that. So when these things are happening, we can have control over what we do and what we do not do, right? Usually, the inclination to do the wrong is always going to be stronger, especially if you're weaker in knowledge, right? Because you need knowledge to have dominion. So, in order to have dominion over air, earth, air, water, fire, have dominion over your mind and your body, you need the proper knowledge to fight that battle, right? We know we wrestle not against flesh and blood, right? So, this is a deeper fight, right? So we are more vulnerable at the full moon. If you study your cycle, you'll realize that the lust is stronger. You want to do more immoralities. That's the time you want to get into your inbox and send messages to different people, having different types of conversations, dirty conversations. So when you start to recognize your pattern, you become aware of it, and then you can choose not to follow the inclination, right? Because what happens is with the inclination, the momentum is so strong and it's not easy to break, right? It's just like you're going down a hill. You're going to go down on full speed. It's not easy to stop in the middle of the hill. So that is what the momentum is like when we are moving towards a desire, right? It's not easy to go the opposite direction, but with proper knowledge and application of knowledge, you will be able to break the inclination of the carnal mind, right? So here we're just going to look at the lust, right? Desire. So this is Galatians 5 and verse 16. It says, "This I say then, walk in the Spirit, and ye shall not fulfill the lust of the flesh." Because these two go in opposite directions, right? So you cannot be going left and right simultaneously. You cannot be doing the will of the Spirit and the will of the dark thoughts of your mind at the same time. So what you see happen with the dark thoughts of your mind is the light of the full moon will pull that to the surface, just as it impacts the tide. Not saying the moon is in control of the tide, but it does impact it, right? So it's the same with that water element inside each of us. So what you have to do is take notice of your patterns, be aware of them, and then you'll realize that, oh, this is there for real, right? So you know that when the next full moon is coming, you can, not saying it does not happen in other phases of the moon, but you have to recognize when the desire is at its strongest point and when you are at your weakest point, right? So different phases of the moon, guess what? The desire might come onto you, but you don't act upon it, right? At the full moon, that lust is stronger. And also, that's not the only thing being affected, because when there is lust, there's going to be jealousy slash envy somewhere else. So when it comes on to adultery, right? When you're lusting after someone, what happens there is there's another spirit that is on that person, and those two will be pulling each other together. And that's why, we manifest those things, because everything is coming to the surface And if you don't have the knowledge, if you don't have the awareness, you will not be able to fight these battles, right? So just recognize the pattern, and as it says, but if, where is it? It says, this I say then, walk in the spirit, and you shall not fulfill the lust of the flesh. So once you start to realize, oh, but this goes against the morality of the spirit, morality of the scriptures, then you will do what? You will start to learn to control. So even if you try for the first time and it worked, you do not act on that lust. Maybe down the road you will go back and act on behalf of the lust. But don't feel bad about yourself, or don't feel as if you are a failure, right? Because like I said, if the momentum going down the hill is so strong, it's not going to be easy for you to cut your speed. And that is what it is. So your inclination is going to be stronger towards that habit of reaching out to people at the full moon, or whenever this feeling of lust comes on to you. It's a process. You have to be patient with yourself. All right. Now, when you start to go the opposite direction, so now you're in the middle of the hill going down. Now you want to do what? Go back up. This is going to take a lot of time to go back up the hill. We know that, right? So you're going to have to go all the way back up. But on your journey, you might stumble, you might fall a few times. It's not about the fall, but it's about the rise after the fall, right? So when you go back to the peak of that hill and you start going on the opposite side where the spirit is, guess what? You have to keep going, going, going until you develop a momentum that's not going to make you retreat into the old you. And this is why sometimes we turn away, or we claim that we repent from certain sins, but we go back and do it because we never get rid of the all the tendencies. You understand the momentum that's there. There's something subtle that is still there inside the body, and it always want to go back to what it's familiar with. So it takes time, it takes application until you get there. When your momentum in the spirit is developed to a certain point, then that point is the point of no return. You know that you're not going to go back to that old way, right? So he says, for the flesh lusteth against the spirit, and the spirit against the flesh, and these are contrary the one to the other, so that ye cannot do things that ye would. You see that? It's either you're going towards the flesh or you're going towards the spirit. And it's going to prevent you from doing the things that you really want to do or that you should do. This is why Paul said in Romans chapter 7 that which I do, I allow not. Right? The thing that your spirit wants to do, the ego is not allowing you to do it. Right? And this is why we keep repeating the same poor mistakes, the poor decisions. Right? It's a confusion with what we want and what we don't want. The tendency or the inclination is stronger towards the wrong thing. Right? So to walk towards the morality, the spirit, it's going to take a lot of work. It's going to take a lot of patience. And in the process, do not condemn yourself. All right? So it's not an easy task, but it can be done. So now that you are conscious of how things work, now you can do things differently. Right? Now you will understand, oh, the reason why I'm not going towards the spirit is because of this is what is holding me back. So what you're going to do now, when it's coming on to that time, or when that feeling is coming on to you, like you want to reach out to someone, what do you do instead? You go for the scriptures. And not only for the scriptures, you go with someone who can really help you to keep your mind in the direction of the scriptures. Right? Because the ego is very tricky. What it will do is it will convince you that you're going towards the scriptures. Then you go do what? To seek out a man to help you with the scriptures, or seek out a woman that you know is weak in understanding to do a study with. And then it's going to go from there to something different. Right? So the adversary, he's very subtle. So we have to fight the battles with the right weapons. Right? So in order to deal with our lust, it's easy to confess, to start with a confession, right? Not just saying it in your mind, but you have to speak it over your life. You have to speak it out aloud, right? As if you're speaking to the Most High, as if He's there in the room with you and you're talking to Him. Confess that this is what is happening to you. This is your experience, right? Every time it comes down to a certain time, I realize I have this pattern. I'm reaching out here, there. I'm entertaining this type of conversation with this type of people. And, whatever is happening, you confess them aloud. He will hear your voice, He will respond. All right? That's somewhere to start. Shalom.